Welcome everyone to the Reiche Building Level Advisory Committee meeting. It is May 28th at 7:35 p.m. We are convening via Zoom. Folks should have the materials for tonight. Mark and Lisa, did you want me to go ahead and approve the, have people consider and approve the minutes? Yeah.
Sure. At the last meeting, I think we just confirmed that folks had received them. We didn't necessarily do a formal approval, just acknowledgement that they were received and entertain any comments folks may have.
Terrific. Thank you. Did anyone not get the minutes? And let's see. You can, just a reminder for the procedures for Zoom. I don't see all of you on my screen now, probably the same as you, because we're seeing Lisa's screen with the presentation. So the easiest way to get my attention or Lisa and Mark's attention is to use the raise your hand function. And you can see that at the bottom of your Zoom screen. And yeah, and then I acknowledge you. So with that, has anyone not seen the minutes? And my second question is, does anyone have questions or clarifications about the minutes? Okay, super. Terrific. So I think with that, I'm going to hand it over to Lisa and Mark.
Okay, I think what we've done on previous ones, just to recognize who is here with kind of a quick introductory roll call. So I think what we'll do is Mark Lee from Harriman. I'll let the other Harriman folks introduce themselves, and then maybe Emily, you can call on others to recognize that they're present.
Just a quick procedural question, and then I'll have this for the future. I know there's an attendance document. Emily, do you have that open?
No, I do not. I'm just typing it manually in my Word file. I'm taking notes. So okay. I'll have a complete list.
Okay, great. Yep. Okay. I will have the procedure down in the future. And my apologies, I should have mentioned off the top that Councillor Thibodeau isn't able to join us tonight, and he apologizes for missing the meeting. All right, so I think we're going to start with the folks from Harriman introducing themselves and acknowledging who's here.
So I think Mark Lee's already introduced himself. My name is Lisa Salwin. I am also part of the Harriman team.
I'm Emily Waugh. I'm also with Harriman. Sorry, Emily, did you want me to call people?
Yeah, do you have, yes, if that would be great. Thank you.
So Renee, we could do it. Do the lead teachers kind of want to go first?
Sure. Renee Serio, lead teacher, Reiche School.
Ed Hummel, lead teacher, Reiche School.
Lori Babinski, lead teacher, Reiche School.
I see, is it Leah Whalen?
Yes, that's me.
Jeremy Dean.
Jeremy, do you want to come off speaker for a second and just say hello?
You don't have to.
Okay. We see him.
We see him now. All right. Christopher?
Is that me? Christopher Moore?
Yep.
Here.
Okay, there. Scott Stewart. Oh, you're on mute.
I'm here. Head custodian at Reiche School.
Steve Stelpen.
Steve Stolford, facilities director, Portland Public Schools.
Javier,
Javier Botana, Superintendent.
Francesca,
Here, community member.
Lori, did you go? I'm sorry. You did. Doug Sherwood.
Doug Sherwood, Facilities Coordinator, Portland Public Schools.
All right. Did I miss anyone? Nope. All right. Lisa and Mark, I'll let you take it away.
Very good. All right. Thank you all. We had established 45 minutes for tonight's building level advisory committee for the Reiche Elementary School renovation project. And so the original intent is that we would complete the this workshop at 8:15. We have kind of an update of the material tonight that Lisa's going to share with us, and sort of a progress update of where we are, and sort of an outline of where we're going. Some of it may be very reminiscent to some of the past material that you've had. We are working on more detailed plans, and those are progressing. But tonight we're going to sort of go through a few kind of up to speed of where we are right now, and what you can expect at our next meeting as well. So with that, Lisa will share the agenda, and we'll bring everyone up to speed.
Awesome. Thank you, Mark. As Mark said, this information may be very familiar to some folks. We have a cycle of monthly meetings with different groups that will review the information just to make sure that we communicate with all the different stakeholders. So it may look familiar to any DABC members or those that were at the community forum. But as Mark said, we are in the process of developing more detailed plans, which will be ready to be shared at the next BLAC meeting. So with that, the agenda for the Reiche BLAC May meeting is, we've done our welcomes and our acknowledgement of the prior meeting minutes. So thank you, Emily and Emily, for walking us through that. We will review the last BLAC meeting, as well as the community forum number 2, and do an overview of the schedule, talk about communication, next steps, and then we will adjourn the meeting. So with that said, the BLAC, we're really happy this group is up and running. We had our kickoff with the co-chairs in late March, and our first BLAC Reiche meeting in late April. The sequence of meetings going forward is the BLACs will meet on the 4th Thursday of every month, except for July, and we'll reiterate that again later in the meeting. But that is the cycle to which we have the BLAC meetings. It provides a nice monthly touch point with everybody. What we reviewed with the co-chairs was an overview of options that we reviewed with the DABC, and they had made a recommendation to move forward with the classroom scope, in the essence of the classroom scope, as they put it, really tasking us with going back and working with principals and lead teachers to hear the different priorities for each of the schools, and really kind of customize that classroom scope for each of the schools. We also went over the BFOF timeline and agenda for the BLAC meeting and upcoming meeting dates. When we met with the BLAC in April, we went over the project schedule and the project scopes and floor plans, as well as prepping for the community, the community forum. The community forum took place, the second one I should say, took place on May 13th. The agenda for that forum was, again, going over the project schedule, keeping people abreast of when things are going to be happening, and then a review of forum number 1. And so just to recap what that was, forum number 1 is when we got together with the community and we did a 3-part interactive exercise about learning about 21st century best practices, capturing the essence of Reiche through words and images, and ultimately arriving at what we call a design statement. So really working with all of the stakeholders to craft that design statement. And just to reiterate what that was, the design statement that came out of that evening was to create an inclusive environment that celebrates diversity, fosters collaboration, embraces nature, and integrates into the urban fabric. So the entire design team at Harriman will continue to use that statement through this process as a touch point to make sure that the decisions that we're making are in alignment as best as they can with fitting within all the other project parameters to align with the essence of the Reiche community. We then went over what the highest priority facility needs are. So again, what is that sort of customized scope for Reiche that fits within the project budget, and really providing that priority list. We went over the project budget and the concept design. At the bottom of the slide, you see the project budgets for all 3 schools. And you can see Reiche's budget for construction and total project costs. So the highest priority facility needs, the 4 that kind of rose to the top when balancing the priority needs of the school, some of the requirements, the district priorities that are needing to be executed at all of the schools, as well as things that just are required as part of a renovation project that fit within that project budget that we saw on the previous slide. Number 1 was enclosed classrooms. We heard it loud and clear with everybody that we met with, all the staff meetings, principal meetings that we've had, really providing closed spaces for classrooms. And in order to do that, you really have to renovate pretty much the whole school side of the building and provide walls, which then therefore you have to provide separate electrical in those spaces, reconfigure the heating of the school and the conditioning of the spaces, and really provide new finishes in those. So it becomes a pretty extensive renovation. Some of the district priorities that are being executed at all the schools is the secure, accessible entrance. And then another priority for the facility was getting getting the music on the school side so that students don't have to go out to that upper level outdoor area to get over to music. And then executing code and accessibility upgrades, which by code and by law we are required to do as part of these construction projects. So the Reiche concept design, again, looking at those priorities and the budget that we are looking to move forward with is outlined in this blue box here. And so it's the building of the walls, which you can see at about $18 million is the majority of the budget for this project. It's pretty extensive. And it's not just, as we said, building of the walls, it's everything that's required to really enclose those learning spaces. Provide the secure entrance. So there's a very minimal addition happening at Reiche. Again, most of the work is inside, but providing the admin and conference room addition so that we can get the administration out here by the new entrance. So creating the secure vestibule entrance here in lieu of it being down here into the brickwork area. And then miscellaneous upgrades. So that's when we say miscellaneous upgrades, it's really some like code stuff that we have to do around fire alarms, sprinklers, emergency lighting, and several other things that are required. So the floor plan that you're looking at, as we mentioned, has the addition here. It has a new entrance, secure entrance here, and really looks at providing the learning spaces along the perimeter of the existing space. And the reason it's organized that way is to maximize the access to natural daylight for those spaces. And then providing a series of small group rooms distributed throughout, as well as other program spaces that are needed around the building. So when we go up to the second floor, similar idea, again, distributing the learning spaces along the exterior walls, a handful of small group rooms distributed throughout, different program elements accounted for that occur at Reiche, and then taking music and moving it over to this side which will require us to take some of the community programs that are here and move them back over to this side. And so with that, I'm going to pass it over to Mark, who's going to go through some of the questions that came out of the second community forum that we had earlier this month.
Thank you, Lisa. So we asked the attendees two prompts to solicit feedback. One was what they liked about the plan, and the second item was what they would like to see that maybe they didn't see in the plan. And there's a fair amount of conversations on the Reiche plan, which was great. That's what we intended the forum to provide. One of them was, were the sizes of the classrooms equal? Because it looked like there were some classrooms that were larger. And the only classrooms that are larger are the kindergarten or pre-K classrooms, which have a larger space requirement for them. But we also said that there may be different shaped classrooms, but the square footage, the size of them, would be democratically equal. And so so that was the conversation regarding the classroom sizes. There was also one on that there's work on the community center side of the building, and a conversation regarding the spaces that are on that side that really still do have needs, and we're clear to say that we recognize that the entire building has facility needs, but we're able to address only so much with the budget that we have, and so we've really concentrated on the school side. And when we say the school side, we're also meaning on the in the plan here on the right-hand side of the brickworks. There was also concerns regarding the size of the art room relative to its current size and the needs that it has, and so that has a new space on the second level of the plan, and so we have suggested, again, as we have with many of these, that the plan is concept and that we'll continue to refine it and work with the stakeholders to make sure that it really is responsive to the needs of the programs. The other one was the access to the school from the community side of the building. And in particular, I believe this may have to do with the entrance that was added, and in particular also on the second level where the elevator lobby is. But we said that the configuration isn't going to change, so that there will be the safeguards that are in place now will be still in place in terms of securing the community center side of the building from the school side, and there will be egress stairs that are provided from the second floor, and so that was largely around that comment. There are a series of spaces that I think this comment labeled them as city public health offices. But there's a tenant, if you will, that has a series of office spaces on the second level on the school side. And what we've proposed is swapping those with the music, which right now is on the other side of the roof level or the roof deck. And so that we are able to contain all of the school programs on the secured side of the building. Another question was whether or not the walls will be full walls, and the answer is simply yes, that the walls will go up and seal so that they provide acoustically isolated spaces. So, question also on the length of the construction phase, and we're working on that now. We're actually digging into how we might possibly phase the construction in an occupied building. So from that exercise, we should have a better sense of how the construction duration will play forward. There are comments about teacher workrooms, where there are going to be teacher workrooms on the upper and lower level. And again, that's an item we'll continue to look at as we refine the floor plans, as well as restrooms, making sure the restrooms are dispersed throughout the building adequately. There was a comment about small group rooms and were they equitably distributed to different grade levels, and there are certain opportunities that we could take in the original or the existing configuration of the building, and the series of tiered stairs that go down to the center that allow us to insert small group rooms. And so they're intended not necessarily assigned to particular grades, but they are available, and we're trying to build in a lot of flexibility that they can be used right adjacent to the classrooms. And then the conversation about access to the brickwork in the gathering spaces and for the whole school, and what does that look like right now. There's a glass system, that glass wall system with doors, and we're reviewing the appropriateness of maintaining a level of separation from the brickwork to the school side. And then access to and from the outdoors from other than the secure entrance. And there are a series of doors on the lower level that provide access to the outdoors. What we have been looking at with all of the schools that we've been renovating is that exterior doors are monitored and controlled with access control, electronic access controls, so that there's the ability to ensure that that when they're open, there's an understanding of how they get opened, and that the door is opened, as well as secured entry to the building from a door at the exterior. So the intent on school design, safe school design, is really to provide a single common entry point to the building, but that doesn't mean that there can't be other opportunities to come and go, but we need to be very, very careful about how we monitor and maintain security in the building. And so those were the comments that we received. They're great comments, and we've already started looking at some of those as we refine the plans, and we'll continue to do so. And as Lisa also said, we'll be sharing an update of that refined floor plan at our next meeting that will take into consideration these comments, as well as comments from staff of the school. And so Lisa, I think, is going to lead us go ahead. I'm sorry, Lisa.
Yeah, I was just going to add that we've also received other comments after the community forum too that we're reviewing as well. And so I know different folks have reached out to follow up with different program needs, as well as quantity of spaces. So that is all being considered right now. And Renee, we had reached out to her to provide us a detailed list of all staff and programs and everything, and we're going through that quality control check right now before we go too much further. So again, I just want to make sure that everyone's aware that we are taking all of that into consideration. So the next item is the BFOF project schedule, and this hasn't changed much if folks have seen it before. For those that haven't, I'll review how it's set up. So the top half here is stakeholder meetings. The middle is the agenda, so what's anticipated to be reviewed at each of those stakeholder meetings, and the bottom is what we call milestones, and this is really related to the production of the drawings that we have to produce, called construction documents, that ultimately are gone out to the bidders and then essentially awarded to a contractor. So I'll start at the top. The stakeholder meetings, there's a bunch of colors up here and a bunch of bubbles, and so I'll go over them at a high level, but the round bubbles here that say public forum are the 3 public forums that we anticipated this time to have throughout the project. The first was the crafting of the design statement. The second was a community forum earlier this month, which is really a project update. And then there will be another project update community forum in the fall. And we target the fall because everyone's coming back from summer. And the design is pretty far along at that point. It's actually about a month or 2 from going to bid. And so we have a pretty good understanding as to what will be in the project, what will not be in the project, and can share that with the community at that time. The color small circles here are the orange is a bi-weekly meeting that we have with Steve and Doug to really just touch base on all the different topics that we have to cover and information we need to gather and share throughout this process with them as we develop these 3 schools, as well as update them on construction progress at LISA. The yellow bubbles are the DABC monthly meetings. So the DABC meets on the third Thursday of every month. So it's a week prior to our BLAC meeting. And essentially the information we share there, we then take recommendations and information from that and create the BLAC presentations and updates. And the BLAC meetings will be the fourth Thursday of every month. And I've seen some rapid invites coming through while we've been here. I think Janet is rapidly sending out calendar invites to everyone to get that on everyone's schedule. So thank you for that. The other bubble here is the school board. And we have several meetings with them throughout this process. The BLAC bubbles here are different meetings that we have with planning board or other checkpoints with staff and things throughout this process. The agendas that are down here are what we anticipate speaking to everyone about. At this point, we're really in through that project update, just keeping everyone abreast of how things are developing, checking in, making sure that we're honoring all of the requests the best that we can within the project parameters. And making sure that this design really captures, again, the essence of Reiche community within those priorities and budget identified. Right now, we are in what we call design development. So we have a concept or a scope that we can then start to implement on the in floor plans and start to develop the design documents. Design development, so pretty much the end of designing the concept and getting everything pretty well defined is happening about mid to late summer. And then we move into what's called construction documents. And that's really detailing everything and putting together a set of drawings and specifications so that in November, we are ready to send, we call it putting it out on the street so that the contractors can bid on the project. And then ultimately the project will be awarded at the end of the year, the beginning of the following year, and construction is slated to begin in spring of 2021. A question that comes up very frequently is, are all of the projects being bid at once? And yes, the intention is that we are developing these all to go to bid at the same time to a single contractor. That is the current thinking, and things are changing rapidly in the world right now. So we always check in with that thinking throughout the process, but that is the current thinking. In regards to communication, always communication is definitely key to making sure that everyone stays informed and everyone we can get feedback from everyone. It's always a work in progress to make sure that the way that which we all are communicating is being received and is working. So we're continuing to look at ways, everything is up on board docs, all of the communications that we have on all the projects is on board docs. We are investigating, is there another avenue to post this information that might be a little bit more accessible or user-friendly? So that is in the process right now. And the other thing that we've started to do are monthly project updates. So all of you should have received a one-page document that highlighted where we're at in the project for Longfellow, Presumpscot, and Reiche. And this is something that we started doing on LICES as well to keep everybody informed on the progress of construction in that project. We'll continue to do that on a monthly basis. If you didn't receive that update, please let us know. We're still trying to make sure that we have all of the email lists dialed in. I know that Javier mentioned to us that there is a list on board docs that lists all the members and email. Please check that, make sure that you are listed on there. If you see anybody that isn't, please let us know. We want to make sure that we reach everybody and everybody receives this information.
The project update is also linked in board docs, so everybody does have access to that. It is in board docs today.
Excellent. Thank you, Javier. So next steps. Where do we go from here? So like I said, we're in design development. We're developing these designs and starting to produce drawings to represent that. This is where we really start to refine things and be able to kick the tires, if you will. And now that we have the scope defined, we can start the process of looking at phasing of construction. And this is a process. It's not something that we can arrive at immediately. It's really looking at all the different facets of the construction and how we would approach this in a phased approach, and what moves of programs would happen when. And this is something that we did at Lysis, and we worked very closely with Lenore, who's the principal there, to identify at each phase where everyone's home is, and look at the end of that phase, who needs to move where, who needs to pack, and then at the opening of the next phase, so on and so forth. And it's a pretty fluid process. We check in before the completion of every phase, because as all of you know, in education, everything's very fluid. You could have a program that starts in one room, and by the end of the school year, they're all the way across the building, or something has changed. So we want to make sure we have all of that accounted for, and it's clear, and we communicate to the staff how this impacts them. And it is, it's not easy to live through construction in a school. And so wanting to make sure we try our best to move people once. Sometimes we have to do it twice, but our goal is to only have folks have to really move once through this to minimize that impact. So again, we're just starting this process. It will be a fluid process. We'll keep people up to speed on our thinking around that. And that said, our next BLAC meeting is June 25th. I think everyone has seen invites come out on that. And so with that, we will open it up for any questions.
So can I ask you a couple of questions?
Absolutely.
First, I'm wondering, on the 25th, is the timing of each of the 3 school meetings the same, so that the Reiche committee would meet at 7:30?
I think it's changing. So I want to look at what was just sent out so that I don't misspeak. What the date of June 25th, the
Lisa, I can answer that. I have it Presumpscott, Reiche. Yeah, Presumpscott, Reiche, and then Longfellow.
So on the 25th, Reiche would start at 6:45.
So the meeting times, we're always going to meet on the 4th Thursday of the month, on the months that we're meeting. But the time might shift between the schools. And so everyone should look at their calendar invites for the specific time for Reiche. Is that correct?
Correct. That is correct. And the reasoning behind that is we want to make sure that we rotate the timing so that if certain members of certain groups can't make a certain time, they have an opportunity at those different time slots to participate.
Excellent. I had one more question
yeah.
About the schedule, which is, I see based on the project schedule, I hadn't focused on this before, but I see that we're meeting in July, but not August. Is that, traditionally the school board doesn't meet in July, but we do meet in August?
So the way that it reads is, this is July right here, and then this is August here. So the line is the start of the month. And then, so right now we don't have a meeting in July, but we do in August. So thank you for pointing that out. As you said, traditionally there is no meeting in July.
Excellent, thank you. I probably could have figured that out myself. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Any other questions? I think Renee has her hand raised.
Hi, Lisa.
Hi.
Hey, there were some questions at the community forum, the last one, about numbers of rooms, second grade, first grade rooms. Generally, we have a set of 4 of first grade and 3 of second grade, and to make room for that. Is that in the next group of design changes as well?
That's what we're digging into right now. And so I appreciate you mentioning that. That was some of the information I think that came just after the community forum to us, or may have been during. But yes, that is what we're digging into at this point, to refine the design to make sure that we have an accurate account for those different spaces.
I have a question, and I don't have the hand raising thing on my screen, but across the brickway where you can have the whole school meeting gathered together, what are the security plans for that space?
So right now, there's no intended change for how that functions, and so there's the intent is that you still are on the secured side of the school, and the separation at the gymnasium becomes the important critical point of ensuring that we have security from the community center side. And so there's no intended change for how you access those spaces from the school side.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Looks like Renee's hand's up. No, it's not.
I think she may have been left up.
I'm gonna lower your hands. I'm getting better at this. That's what you did.
I see a physical hand.
Glory.
Yeah, this adds on to what Renee was asking. So we've been a school that has grown over the last 9 years. And so that was a question. I did email that in terms of space for growth and if that would be in part of the planning.
Yeah, I think we're doing our best to not only account for all the requisite necessary classrooms, but also to try to fit in all the other flexible spaces. And so, unfortunately, the building, as you've grown, the building didn't grow with you, and so we're constrained with trying to get it all in within the exterior walls. And so that's somehow we're going to use our magic space expander wand and come up with a plan to get it all in there. But we're being as creative as we possibly can, and taking into consideration that that the population has increased. So it looks like everyone might be able to go home a little early tonight.
3 minutes early. Impressive. Well, if there aren't any other questions, we really appreciate everyone taking the time to join us tonight. These touch points are really important to the process and making sure that everyone is kept up to speed on how things are progressing, and you can raise different questions that we may not have been aware of or thought of through the process. And so again, thank you. We really appreciate your time.
See you all on June 25th at 6:45.
Sounds
Thanks
good.
so much,
Thank you
everyone.
all.
Have a good night.
Good night.